Not only does Thunderbolts feel like such a breath of fresh air for the MCU, but it also feels like this cinematic universe finally has a clear direction for the future once again. Welcome to Bite Size Bunny, my name's Tony, and today we are going to be talking about Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts is the 36th movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it definitely feels like one of the most unique entries in the MCU. I think it absolutely stands out from most of its predecessors. In Thunderbolts, a group of anti-heroes are sent into a death trap, but when they survive the trap, they realize they must work together in order to survive, while also being forced to face their own dark past. Leading up to this movie's release, I consistently heard about how Thunderbolts seemed like it was going to be Marvel's version of the Suicide Squad. And while that does feel like the case in the beginning of this movie, it does manage to successfully forge a path for itself that lets it feel like way more than that. Thunderbolts quickly evolves into being its own self-contained thing that has an identity of its own. Not only was I pleasantly surprised by this film's story, but I also really appreciated the fact that they took the opportunity to explore some darker, more heavy themes here, with some of the main themes of Thunderbolts being centered around struggling with depression and loneliness. They take the opportunity to explore these characters' backgrounds and the various struggles they've dealt with throughout their lives, which quickly makes this feel like one of the most grounded human stories told in the MCU, and I kind of love that about it. I will say a part of me wonders if this movie maybe would have benefited from an R rating. Not because I think this movie needs to be more violent, I actually think that would kind of miss the point and defeat the purpose of Thunderbolts, but more so because sometimes the film does feel like it wants to push some of those boundaries and really explore those darker themes, but has to reel itself in to maintain that PG-13 rating. I mean, this is from the director of Beef and from the writers of The Bear and BoJack Horseman, and you can clearly see the creator's DNA interwoven throughout this movie. But also, with knowing how dark those other projects go in regards to covering similar subject material, and then seeing how close Thunderbolts is in tone, it does feel like it does pull its punches at times. Hopefully this does well though, and opens the door for future MCU films down the road, and allows the MCU to kind of explore some of the more darker Marvel stories that have been told in the past, without having to potentially feel restrained. As far as the performances go, Florence Pugh and Louis Pullman are the standouts of this show with their performances as Yelena and Bob. There is not a bad character in the bunch, and every character gets their moment to shine here, but you can't deny that Yelena and Bob are the heart of this story. Not only are their backstories explored in a way that grants this film and these characters so much more depth, but their chemistry and the way they play off of each other makes it incredibly easy to be glued to the screen anytime they're interacting with each other. There's some decent action in Thunderbolts as well, and I was thrilled to see the finale of this movie was a little bit more clever than resorting to a Marvel CGI slugfest. Overall, Thunderbolts is a really good installment in the MCU, and this is the first time in a long time where I have felt genuinely excited to see what's coming next in this franchise of movies. It's a well-done, mature story that can sometimes feel a little held back by some of the usual MCU elements you've come to expect at this point, but it's still a damn good time. I'm going to be giving Thunderbolts an 8 out of 10. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review. Like, subscribe, and all that YouTube stuff. And what's your favorite MCU movie? I'd love to know.